Hello everyone and welcome to Real Life Racing episode 11. So for race 1, your eyes do not deceive you, this is me on pole position. I managed to qualify on pole, so I got the best lap time in the qualifying session by 1/10 of a second it was, and that put me on pole position. Now funnily enough, the exact same round last season, I actually got pole position as well, but that was in the wet. And I haven't had a pole position in qualifying since then. So it was a pretty good moment for me. You know, I don't start on pole very often. I have started on pole position sort of once throughout the course of this series, and it didn't go so well. There was a problem with the kart at the start. I can't remember which one that was in, but that was in a previous episode. So yeah, I'm hoping that this one goes a little bit better. Now I basically choose when I can put my foot on the accelerator and go. I decide to go, then I get a really good start, and I basically just get a good launch all the way down to the first corner. I managed to leave people behind me, and the race is I can just concentrate on my own race at that point, and it's such a great feeling to go into the first corner on this first lap and not have anything in front of you. You know, you're just able to go off at your own pace. You can really put the hammer down, and the fact that you've qualified in pole position sort of gives you the confidence to know that you've got the pace in yourself and in the kart to win the race. You know, it's different. So throughout this series, obviously you probably know how it works, that in the second race you start where you finished the first race and all the karts are swapped around. So you're in a completely different kart which might have better or worse performance than the kart that you had previously. So say for example, if you win a race, you start on pole position, but you might be in a completely different kart to what you were in last time, and it might not be so good. So you know, you might start falling back, dropping back places because you don't have the speed in the kart. But when you qualify on pole position, you've actually set the best lap time in qualifying. You know, you've got the best lap time. You know that you are the quickest on the track, at least through the qualifying session. So you should stand a good chance of winning the race. And obviously, you know, as you saw there, the first lap was I've managed to get a reasonably decent lead. I haven't been challenged at this point, and that's basically how it continues for the rest of the race. I just managed to drive away from the guys behind me, set really consistent lap times, as you can see there on the right hand side. You know, all within 1/10 of a second of each other, and I managed to come through and win this race. So a really good start to the round. You know, I've never actually qualified on pole and then gone on to win the first race before, so a maximum 25 points from this one it will be. And yeah, it was such a nice feeling to not have any issues really. You know, the last time that I started on pole in whatever episode it was in this series, I had a massive issue with the kart, and I ended up, you know, it bogged down right at the start just as I put my foot on the accelerator, and nothing happened. You know, it just didn't go anywhere, and I ended up back in sort of 7th or 8th by the first corner. And I've only won 2 races throughout the whole of this series, and the second race that I won was actually in the third race of the round, which meant I didn't get to qualify. I didn't get to sort of start on pole position because of that, because we went straight into the final. So yeah, this is only really the second time this season where I've started on pole position, and it went a lot better than the first time, you'd have to say that. So yeah, it was really good to get another win under my belt. Obviously this season I've had my first win with I think, I can't remember what episode that was, but it was definitely one of the episodes in this series, possibly episode 3, where I got my first win. So I've had 2 wins this season, and this is the third. So yeah, I was obviously really happy with that, and it was a great way to start this round, and certainly a lot better than the way that the previous round went. So I'm already up on what happened last month. So yeah, that was a really good start to the race, and now we go on to race 2, which kind of presented its own set of problems. So for race 2, obviously, as I said, you know, all of the karts get swapped around, and basically what happens is the kart that finished in last position gets put to the front of the grid. But there was a problem with that kart, which meant that it got swapped out. So the kart that I'm in is actually completely brand new to the racing. You know, it hasn't done the first race or the qualifying, so the engine's really cold, the tyres are really cold. You know, it's I'm certainly at a disadvantage at this point because everything about the kart is cold, whereas all of the other karts on the grid are all warmed up. You know, they've had the engines warmed up throughout the course of the qualifying and the first race. All the tyres are warm. So I'm desperately sort of trying to get some heat in the tyres and things like that. But the engine cuts out on me, as you saw there. It just completely dies on me, and I have to get it started up. And as you can see here, I retake my position at the front of the pack again. So this presents its own issues. I've certainly the first race went without any issues. This one isn't doing the same thing. I'm having to sort of manage the kart on this formation lap. I'm having to make sure it doesn't cut out on me again. It's very similar to what happened the last time that I started on pole, when the kart did sort of die on me at the start of a race, and I don't want that to happen again. So I'm just kind of trying to manage the situation. I know that the tyres are going to be cold. I haven't had the greatest formation lap to get the kart ready, but I just have to try and manage it as best as I can. And again, as you can see there, I managed to time the start really, really well again, get another really good start, and I'm able to sort of take off down to the first corner again. Obviously, I'm over to the right-hand side to defend the inside line, but in comparison to the previous round, the tyres on my kart, as I mentioned, are a lot colder than what they were at the start of the previous race. So that means I'm immediately at a disadvantage, and I also don't know what the performance of the kart is like. It's a brand new kart. It's completely different. It's certainly not as quick as the kart that I was in for the first race, and as you saw on the left there, I was being challenged up the inside there, but I managed to hold it off. And these first sort of 2 or 3 laps on this race are going to be tricky. They're going to be a lot more difficult than what I've just experienced. The kart's very different. I've got to get used to that. The engine needs to warm up. The tyres need to warm up. It will only take sort of 1 or 2 laps, but I've got to hold out for those sort of laps before I can sort of get into the groove of the kart and figure out what I'm going to do. So obviously I've managed to sort of get through the first lap okay and stay in the first place, but I'm nowhere near sort of building a gap behind me. And as you can see, I'm going over to defend on the right hand side because people are directly behind me, as you can see there. And in fact, the first lap, the 1 minute 10 there is actually 2 seconds slower than the first lap in the previous race. So that kind of shows you the difference in performance from having a kart that's all warmed up and ready to go to having a kart like this. Now this kart isn't quite as quick as the kart I had previously. It's around half a second slower, as you'll see, in terms of best lap time, but I do manage to keep it going, and by the time we come on to the 5th lap here, as you can see, I've managed to get a bit of a gap to the people behind me, but it's not that much. It's not a lot, and as you can see there, there's the 2 guys battling for position, and one of those guys, the guy in the blue suit, actually comes up and starts trying to overtake me, because he's come up from 7th on the grid, and he's managed to work his way through the grid. He's obviously in a very quick kart. He's a very quick driver as well, and I have to now, for the last few laps, start defending from him, which is something that I didn't have to do in the first race. I was able to just drive away and get sort of an easy win, I guess you could say. But this time it's not so easy. I do have to start defending. I do have someone right on my backside for the closing laps, trying to overtake me for the win himself. So it's presenting a different set of challenges. The first race was reasonably easy. It was reasonably straightforward to just be able to drive away, and it didn't have any issues. This one is presenting a totally different set of challenges. Cold tyres at the start, having to manage that for the first few laps. Then now I managed to create a bit of a gap, and now I've got someone right behind me trying to overtake again. He's obviously quicker than me at this point in the race as well, because he's been able to catch me up, and he is hounding me as well. So I'm trying to defend, and that's what I'm trying to do. The worst that I'm going to come at this point is second, unless something major happens, because the guys that are behind him are reasonably far back. So we've both got a decent gap to the people behind us, and as you can see there, I've managed to put in 2 of my best laps of the race with 107.6s that have helped me to sort of manage that gap a little bit and take the pressure off a little bit. I mean, he's still there, but those 2 quick laps have sort of given me a little bit of a buffer to be able to hang on for this sort of last lap, if you like. So obviously we are on the last lap now, and he is literally right there on my arse. I'm well aware, as you can see there, just on the left he was there. I'm well aware of where he is and where he's going to try and overtake me. So I'm just defending. You know, all my mind is on at the moment is defending, and you've got to be able to change that mindset. You've got to be able to go from sort of attacking and putting in those lap times, making sure your lines are right and things like that. You've got to be able to change that mindset and go to a defensive strategy like this. As you can see, you know, I took a completely defensive line into the hairpin there, and I sort of take a bit of an earlier apex at this point just so he can't come up on the inside of me. He is still right behind me, but I managed to come through and get another win. So out of the first 2 races, I've actually managed to win both of them, and that's doubled my entire win streak throughout the whole season. You know, I'd only won 2 races before this, and now I've won 4. 2 races in the first 2 wins in the first 2 races in this round. So that's been pretty crazy. You know, 50 points out of 50. That sort of thing doesn't really happen for me. So here we are in race 3. Obviously a different kart again. This time I get another good start, as you saw there. I'm really timing my starts well, but this time I don't have a decent gap to the person behind me, and I'm sort of being pushed in the back, I think, by a lot of people, and that just unsettles me going into the first corner, and that allows the guy who was in 3rd position, who was just behind me, who started in 3rd position, to get up into the lead. So, you know, I've started on the back foot there. You know, people would have been pushing him from behind. He was then pushing me. That's how it works at the start of a race. And I just sort of got caught out really on the first corner. I tried to turn in as much as I could, but the effect of people pushing into the back of me just sent me a little bit wide, enough to allow him to get through. But all is not lost, you know. I'm still in 2nd place. There's a long way to go in the race. The kart doesn't feel too bad, you know, under me. It's not as if it's a bad kart by any stretch. So I've still got hope, you know. I'm even a 2nd place is a good result for me. So I'm happy with where I am at the minute. You know, you just want to consolidate the position that you're in on the first sort of lap or 2, and then see what you can do. Now, as you can see here, I just managed to sort of stay in the slipstream, and there is a big headwind here. Now my kart has much higher top speed, it seems, by the end of the straight. You know, it was really good at the end of the straight, not necessarily in the corners or coming out of the corners, but at the end of the straight there, as you saw, it had really good top end speed. And coupled with the slipstream of the fact that there was a really high headwind, it just allowed me to make that move stick quite easily. So I've only lasted 1 lap in 2nd place, and now I'm back into 1st again, which is pretty crazy, you know. Now obviously he's right behind me again, you know, and I'm having to defend again. But I also want to sort of try and push on a little bit to try and create a little bit of a gap. You know, if I can do that, then the people behind me can all start battling with each other, and I can sort of run away a little bit. I'm sort of taking this opportunity as I've got it to get away whilst I can. You know, I've got that 1st position, get away now whilst I can, and that's kind of what I managed to do. I create a little bit of a gap, as you can see. You know, there isn't anyone directly behind me, and that sort of, all of those, as you can see there in the back, all start battling with each other for 2nd place. And I think from 2nd all the way down to 7th, by the end of the race, they finish within sort of 1.5 seconds of each other, which is totally crazy that so many people could be so close, all battling for 2nd place. And because they were all battling, that kind of allowed me to get away at the front. You know, as you can see here, we're coming on to the last lap. I've got about a 4 or 5 second gap over everyone else. My lap times aren't sort of anywhere near what I was doing in the first race, and are even slower than what I was doing sort of in the second race as well, which you would assume that if my kart is slower overall over the course of the lap, then I would get caught up by some of the quicker guys behind me. But they're all battling with each other, so they're all slowing each other down. So that's allowed me to just, even though I'm in a overall slower kart, despite it having good top speed, it doesn't matter. You know, I've been able to get away and just take that opportunity when I could, and that's what I had to do. You know, I had to take that opportunity. Once I'd got in front, I had to just push on and try and create a little bit of a gap. That's what I managed to do. And as you can see here, you know, I'm coming on to finish the final lap, and that's another win. So out of 3 races, I've won 3 races. And take into account, as I said earlier, I'd only won 2 races before this round throughout the entire season. This has been one hell of a round so far, 75 points out of a maximum of 75. It's been pretty crazy. Going into the final, I will be on pole position, have the maximum number of points available. It's my best chance ever to sort of have a perfect week. And, if you've been following this series, you know that this sort of thing just doesn't happen to me. I don't get wins this easily. It's generally a little bit harder, but things have all come together, things have just worked this round, and I've managed to do the job that I always felt that I could do if I was given the opportunity to do it. So here we are in the final. Again, I get another really good start. I think my starts have been really good because I can sort of choose when to go because I'm on pole position. I think I've been really, really doing well at doing that, and it's not as if I have much experience at doing it, but I certainly do now, and I really enjoy sort of starting at the front, and it's such a big advantage to be able to choose when you can go. So yeah, this is the final. This is where the trophies are handed out. I managed to get a really good start, and I'm in the lead, as pretty much has happened with most of the races. But unfortunately, I noticed that the guy who was in second has just managed to get up the inside of me. Now, I noticed that reasonably early, but he was up the inside, so there was not a lot that I could really do. And then he manages to get up the inside of the corner, and it becomes obvious in the first sort of lap or two that he's in a bit of a quicker kart. I don't really have much of a chance to stay with him, and he manages to drive away a little bit. It's not much, it's a little bit every lap, but it's not that I just can't keep with him. So, as I mentioned, in all of the races, all of the karts are swapped around, so you're in a different kart every time. Now, I've been reasonably lucky in the previous races to have reasonably good karts. I've not had a bad kart in any of the races that's caused me to drop down or have to overly defend or anything like that. For the final, all of the karts are sort of the number of the kart that you get is all picked out of a hat, so it's all completely random. Now, the kart that I have, again, I've been quite lucky in the fact that it isn't a bad kart. There's nothing specifically wrong with it. It's reasonably on the pace. It's on the similar pace to the karts that I had in the second and third races. But there are some karts that are just a little bit better than others. As you saw in the first race, the kart that I qualified with, that got better lap times than what the karts that I've had here in the second, third and the final races have had. And similarly, the kart that the guy has in front of me there is a little bit quicker as well. It's about half a second quicker. So, it's one of those things. This is one of those things that you just have to deal with when you're doing this sort of thing. It all evens itself out in the end, and I've just got to sort of, okay, he's got in front of me, I'm not going to win this race unless something strange happens. I've got to just now go past that, move past that, move on, because I've still got a job to do to finish second. The trophies are handed out in the final, so you can get a first place, a second place and a third place trophy depending on where you finish in the final race. So I've still got a job to do here. I've still got to be able to finish second to get that second place trophy, and I really want a trophy. Who wouldn't? And the guys who are right behind me are all right behind me. It's not as if I'm creating a gap to them. They are sticking behind me all the way. And similarly now, this is a back marker that we're coming to lap here, just on as we come onto the last lap. They're all still right behind me, but I've managed to sort of move on from the fact that I didn't manage to defend from the guy who overtook me, and I've managed to keep that second place, and I get that second place trophy. So it's one of those things, I didn't manage to get the win in the final, but I've done one hell of a round, and I've managed to come out with a trophy at the end of it. Now, amazingly, the first place trophy for winning the final is the only thing that I haven't done yet in this championship. I've won second and third place trophies, I've won races in terms of the heats, but I've never actually won the final, so that's still the one thing that I have to do. But all in all, this has been a fantastic round for me. I probably could have done something a little bit different to defend from the guy who had the quicker kart in the final, but he did say that the mid corner speed of the kart that he had was just so much better that allowed him to get that run on me. So there wasn't really a lot that I could have done there. I probably could have done some things a little bit better, but it would have been a difficult race throughout the whole race anyway, even if I had managed to keep him behind me. Having said that, it's been a fantastic round, 97 points out of a possible 100. Only 3 points off the maximum 100 that you can get for winning all 4 races. I've won 3 races out of 4. I've come second in the last one. It's been a fantastic round. It's impossible for me to have done a round that's any better, really, apart from getting those 4 wins. And I never would have expected that I would manage to get such a high point score. 97 points is absolutely crazy. I would never have imagined that I would be able to get that sort of points, certainly at the start of this season. So I've got to be happy with this round. It's easily been the best round that I've done, and it's also the first time that I've finished a round where I've had the most points out of anyone. So, if trophies were handed out based on the amount of points that you've done through all 4 races of the month, then I would have, won the first place trophy. So that's something to be happy about as well. First time I've ever done that, and literally the only thing that I haven't done now in this series is win one of the finals and actually get that first place trophy. So that's the next thing to do. So since this was actually the penultimate round of the championship, it makes sense to look at the championship as it stands going into the final round, which does happen to be on this Sunday. So obviously first place, Callum Cleat, that's the person who overtook me in the final of the race that you've just seen. He's way out in front. He's won the championship easily. Now second, third and fourth are basically all fighting for second position. So if you look at 5th position down over, the maximum possible points that the person in 5th position can get is 553. Now that's less than the points that I already have, which is 573. So I'm sort of guaranteed to finish 4th or higher, 4th to 2nd. Now I'm aiming, obviously, to finish 2nd. I would love to finish 2nd. I'd get a bigger trophy for the championship, It would be great to finish 2nd in the championship, but I've got 2 other people who can also beat me. However, I've managed to get some good points throughout the course of the championship, and that 97 points that I've just managed to get in that round have really helped my championship along. So basically what it means is, if I get 68 points or more in the next round, in the final round, then second place is sort of secured for me, regardless of what anyone else does. If I get 59 points, then I've secured third place, regardless of what anyone else does. But if I get less than 67 points, it all depends on what the guys below me do. So they do need quite a lot of points in the next round to overhaul me, but it's going to be sort of interesting to see how it all works out. And if you want to have a look at the championship table, you can always go back and pause it. I'm obviously the kind of person who likes to look at these things. I won't really be thinking about it at the time, but I like to look at these things and do a bit of maths on it and work out just what I need to do. So hopefully I can get second place in the championship. Wish me luck. The next race is this Sunday, and I'll bring you the video for it as soon as I can. So thanks a lot for watching, everyone. I really do appreciate it. Leave a like and comment and all that good stuff if you enjoyed. See you all next time.